And then we'll cut for break in a little bit. But Boulder, Colorado, there's that rap song, I Ain't Never Getting Older.
I'll have to look
No?
it up.
Oh, you'll know it. You'll know it. Just look that rap song up, and it says, because she stole her mattress from her roommate in Boulder. And
The Chainsmokers. I do know the
yes,
song.
Chainsmokers. That's it.
Okay. Yep.
So they put you guys on the map. So
Yes.
that's awesome.
Beautiful area.
Yep, beautiful area. Great rap music, apparently.
I guess.
Oh man! So before we dive in too deep to the vision, we're going to be talking today about boldly stepping into your inherent worthiness. And as we do so, what 3 books or resources do you recommend for leaders and visionaries out there?
3 books or resources. The first book I would say is The 4 Agreements. 100%. That book changed my life, and I always recommend that to everyone. Resources.
I need to read that. I need to read it.
Oh my goodness. He also, The Mastery of Love. So those are 2 that I would recommend. Same person, Tom Miguel. They're incredible. It really just goes back to like your inherent worthiness, right? Like everything is your choice, and to not put your worth anything in other people, right? Like they're very simple agreements, but they can be very hard to enact, but they're beautiful. As far as resources, one I always would suggest people learning about or getting into would be just somatics. I think the basis of a lot of what I do and what I see in everybody is so many people are just out of the body. They're disconnected. And so the practice of learning how to get into your body, and there's many different ways to do that, but that would be another one that I would recommend is more in somatics.
Awesome. It's funny, as we continue to build the show, we attract more and more people from different sectors. And I don't want to say the quality of our leaders is getting better, because I don't want to say anything bad about past people, because we've had great people. But I have noticed that more and more people are starting to talk about things like the intuition and the body itself. And I see great leaders lean into that resource and openly, and not look so externally for resources. So cool. Kudos to you for that. We're going to be right back. We're going to cut for a little bit of a break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into how to really boldly step into your inherent worth. And Natalia Richardson and I are going to explore her vision. So we'll see you on the other side, guys. All right. Welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, and welcome in, Vision Pros. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business, and I'm excited to have Natalia Richardson on stage today. We're going to be talking about transformation, coaching, and what elements we can turn into in life, what resources we can turn to in tactics, principles, things of that nature, to make sure that we're getting the most out of it, and in the form of understanding your inherent worth. The first time I heard that word, I had to look it up. Naturally, right? But I was probably 28 years old, 29 maybe, when I really clicked, and I was like, I wonder what that means. And it's one of those words where once you learn about it, it is transformational. You can't go back to the way you used to see the world. So I'm excited for her to explore that with us fully and teach us as an expert in that space. Before we bring Natalia on stage, we're going to talk about the resources up here that we also recommend. So Melissa Gray with the Law Spot is resource number 1. Having been a co-founder of Restaurant Connect, we faced a trademark lawsuit for a brand name that we already owned. We ended up spending $20,000 on that trademark lawsuit, and that was to protect a brand we already had. Why did that happen? We just weren't strategically prepared. We didn't know what we didn't know about protecting our little business. And when I found Melissa, I was not really excited to have her on the show, to be honest with you. She had come through one of my co-hosts, and I thought about canceling it because most lawyers, they don't have the time of day for you. They don't want to take the time to understand what you're up to. And I found her to be a tremendous leader. We ended up deciding to work together and have this strategic partnership now I absolutely love how she's building what she's building. And it's fun to have somebody who's very good at law, but also understands the importance of caring for people at the same time. So I highly recommend checking her out and what she's doing. We've also got Permilia Paramon here with the Healing Institute. And the Healing Institute's vision is to pull together collectively the holistic healers that are out there in the world, anybody involved in wellness, into one community where these practitioners can basically, so the patients, people who are looking for help in life, can come in here and filter through and see what types of people can they get help from. You can register on here as a practitioner. You can also register as a potential client and check this out. Permelia comes with decades and decades of wisdom. I'm a big fan of something I heard once from somebody who was in their 90s, and I was going through a divorce at the time, and he said, stop looking at your peers for advice. He didn't say that forcefully, but he said, if you want to find good advice and wisdom, start looking at marriages that have existed for decades. People have been married for 40, 50, 60 years, and see what they're doing, because they've been over the hill. They've seen all the things that one can see about those types of experiences. So when I met her and saw the wisdom that she has and the joy she has, the youthful nature that she is, I was like, man, this lady has so much value to offer, and we're excited to see her continue to expand and grow that. Lastly, we're going to talk about the Water Project. And the Water Project it's one of those resources that kind of blew my mind when I saw it, because I hadn't considered the fact that there are millions of people in the world who don't have access to clean drinking water. How fortunate am I? How spoiled. I've never had to deal with that. And when I learned about it, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Decided I want to do something to help. So we contribute to the Water Project. We bring it on the show, and when you look at these pictures of these kiddos, it looks like they're celebrating Christmas Day, and that's the type of impact we have the ability to make. So my hope is that you'll take a look at what they're doing. If you contribute to a project, it will send you an update for that community, so you actually get to see the fruition of what you've contributed come to life. And I highly recommend meditating on that. What type of impact may you have just had? I bet that type of an impact, to have water, have a source of water where kids are no longer having to leave school and walk 3 to 4 miles to get it, or parents are no longer having to leave work to go get water. The impact is generational in nature, and I hope you join me on that. Now, if there's another source if there's a cause that you'd like to see us contribute to instead, there's 8 billion people in this world to help, and we're all about it. So please drop that in the comments. Let us know what things we can contribute to, and we might host that on the show as well. Without further ado, Natalia, thank you so much for joining us on Vision Pros Live.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. What is your vision for the people that you serve?
Well, similar to the title, like to really step into their inherent worthiness. I believe that we are born with desires for a reason. They're already ours, and it's really removing the blocks, the beliefs, the traumas perhaps that have kept us playing small or not fully stepping into that. So every person I work with, I want them to shine, to boldly watch their manifestations come into the 3D reality, and also realizing that it doesn't have to be hard, that it can feel good as they grow, and their relationships can thrive as their business grows, and to step out of that paradigm that, things have to suffer for us to get what we want, or we are meant to suffer, and know that everything is happening for us, not to us.
I love that. I've been through that suffering quite a bit in my life. I'm no stranger to trauma. I'm no stranger to childhood trauma all the way through adulthood experiences. And I love the way that you talk about escaping that. And what does it look like on the other side? You talked about it feeling good. So what does it look like when somebody goes to the other side? What types of experiences unfold for somebody beyond that point?
Wow. One example that comes to mind is actually somebody who is in one of my containers, and it was last night. And when she joined the container, one of the things that came up for her was whenever her, ex-partner, they share kids, but whenever she would receive messages, she would get tight, she'd be fearful, anxiety, like it would just trigger this spiral. And so we've worked on first her worthiness and where she has been sacrificing herself, and second, how to really process and feel these emotions. And yesterday we were kind of reflecting over the past, I don't know, let's say 8 weeks. And she all of a sudden said, "Oh my goodness, I had this message come through yesterday. I felt nothing. That's the first time in
Mm,
years I've been dealing this. I felt nothing. I was just peaceful."
free.
Yeah. And I just, you watched her eyes light up because it hadn't even clicked for her that, oh my goodness, it didn't affect me this time. Um, and the same goes for, she said that she was feeling stagnant. And I asked her a couple questions and I said, okay, are you stagnant? Are you actually at peace? You've been living in chaos. We've been working through things. Your nervous system was used to chaos, which in turn, if we're used to it, we actually create more, right? We look for more. We manifest one way or another,
Right.
right? Consciously or
That's
unconsciously.
right.
And again, she goes, I think you're right. And I said, yeah, it's because it's uncomfortable. You're not used to it. There's nothing
Mm.
wrong. And like I said, her eyes teared up. She was just full of joy having that realization. So that's one very
Ooh, that's beautiful.
example that came through just yesterday on one side to the other.
You two for one on that. That was awesome. And that is, again, sometimes these types of concepts that are almost spiritual nature, or
Mhm.
it's so deep and profound that it can be hard to interact with that. But like the ability to feel that liberation, and then like you said, to be able to embrace what was once a personal label of like, oh no, but to transition that, nothing changed other than the mindset, and the acceptance of, oh wait, I get to feel joy right now. That is, it's mind blowing. How sometimes as simple it is to change our lives. So well done. What about you? What's your vision for you?
Oh man. I'm sure you've heard this many times, but to change the world.
I love
uh,
that one. That's the point of Vision Pros.
yeah, to change the world, but through, again, every leader, every man or woman that I work with, they're changing all the people that they're working with and they're helping them heal, and that's impacting their children and their legacy. And so it's just, I envision it through like that ripple effect of how I can help
Ripple
somebody so
effect.
deeply.
I love it. Absolutely. I remember when Steve Jobs, at least in the movie, said, I'm going to make a dent in the universe. Like that was one of the biggest quotes of the movie. And my immediate thought was, I do that every day. And we all do. What are your thoughts on that?
um, I completely agree. Whether it's, we're living unconsciously, we're pouring out from that place, and we can adapt those beliefs or pour them on, right? A lot of the things that we believe have come from somebody who is unconsciously pouring out those wounds, right? So it can be a positive dent or a negative. But again, when you are consciously creating everything that you do, I believe we're all connected. So the work that I do within is connected to everything, to everybody. I believe that we all have that divine within us, the connection.
Yeah, we often minimize as human beings the power of saying hello to somebody, right? But we talk about the value of it in circumstances like this, remembering that, internalizing it, allowing that to be a good deed for yourself, like allowing yourself to embrace the fact that you did something awesome in that moment. Like that's something that I strive to remember, and I strive to help my kiddos as well. Remember, like those things matter a lot. And so anyway, we're gonna go the exact opposite direction though. We're gonna talk about something very dark.
Oh, good.
What's the worst leadership experience that you've ever had?
Does this pertain to me working with somebody else or me having a leader like guiding me?
My frame for it would be whichever story or experience you feel will help the audience most.
Mm. Um, and I believe this kind of comes back down to, the work that I do, but I remember having a leader who would always say, like, you have this because of me, and you were this because of me, and you wouldn't have anything without me. And it was this,
Ooh,
yeah,
gaslighting.
it was this
Essence.
very, like, you got all this because of me. And I remember that and thinking, no, that's not true. But subconsciously, right, when you hear things enough, you most of the time will start to believe them. And so then you start to live out that, that smallness.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
hurts. That hurts. There are lots of people that can be like that in your life, and setting your healthy boundaries, right? Making sure you recognize those instances is super important. Let's talk about the opposite. What's the best leadership experience that you've ever had?
Um, it's the people that I've worked with now who are my own mentors, who it's the same principle that I have, that really they just help me step into the best version of myself, right? They aren't creating the clone of them, because that's not the point. So to really, I remember closer to when I started my business, it was like the first real mentors I'd worked with. And they really helped me step into my value, I was selling myself short in the things I was doing. And that was from, beliefs from trauma, from things I hadn't worked through. And they really helped me step into the power and what I had and break through those barriers. But it was about me and what felt good to me, right? And my mission. It wasn't them telling me this is, how they did it, this is how I have to do it. And I've worked with both types of people, and I don't believe there's a one size fits all. I believe it's about guiding somebody to their gifts and how it flows for them.
Love that. And you don't have to spill the beans. I'm putting you on the spot live. I know that. Are you going to reveal who this, magic mentor was, the original one?
The very original one,
or one who's super awesome that helped with that. It's just you gave that story. I'm like, man, I always want the source. I'm like a journalist.
Yeah, they are. I think they've changed their name a few times. It would be Legacy Consulting, I believe, is what they go by now. And this was
nice.
Maybe about 3-4 years ago, I think, when it was like I was in the transition of my business and the first pivot of about 3 that I've taken as I've grown. But yeah, it was them, and I went to them for business. And it's also what taught me how to coach essentially the way I do, is because I work with the multidimensional, because everything is tied, right? The business, the mind, the body. And I didn't realize walking into it that they were going to help me so much with just like my own beliefs that have been blocking me. So I'm still in contact with one of them.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, thank you for sharing the source. It's not always, sometimes there's secret recipes and secret things that don't get shared. But we just got one of the great ones of yours. So if this were the last chance ever to share a lesson with the world, what powerful lesson can other visionaries learn from your experience?
I
know that feeling.
It's like, that's a really, really deep question. Oh man. Whether it's a leader or just a human being in general, or an entrepreneur, it's really that everything is a mirror. I really like to transition people from the word trigger to a mirror. And when you can look at everything as a reflection back to you of it's trying to show you something so that you can grow and move through it, you're taking this radical responsibility for that. You're empowered. It's a mirror back to you instead of this trigger, which when you use the word trigger, sometimes it can make you feel like your power is being taken away. And so transitioning that view of my life, that everything is a mirror and it's happening for me, like the world just opened up. I'm like, okay, this is just here to show me. I asked for this new level. Of course there's a challenge. Of course there's this, because this new level requires me to, learn whatever it is. So cool, this is what's going to get me there.
That's awesome. I like that. And I'm going to need to do some heavy meditation on that as well. That's one of those quotes where it's like, oh, that is so profound. If I would just be pretending if I'm reacting to it immediately, but that is something that I have to study out, because both the concepts of mirrors and triggers are so powerful. It's like, okay, wait a second. I have to give up my triggers in order to accept the reality of what you just said about mirrors, or I get to. But I'm gonna go meditate and walk on that later.
So forward to hearing about that.
I love it. What's up?
I look forward to hearing about it.
All good. I'll follow up on it then for sure. That's so we already got that quote out there for everybody too. You can go see that. We turn that into an awesome meme later and say, like, yeah, look at that. So if I end up doing the quote wrong, Natalia, we're gonna want your feedback on it to make sure that we get it precise, because those words are worth they're worth everything. a lot of times. So let's go to the next segment. We're going to be talking about that boldly stepping into inherent worthiness. So what is inherent worthiness? How, before we even boldly step into it, what does that mean for people who that might be new to?
Inherent worthiness. It means that you are worthy as you are. You always have been. Like it is part of you.
Like priceless.
Yeah, you're not broken. You've never been broken. Like you, even when it comes to our healing journey, people can define themselves by their healing journey, and that takes away your power again. Like you are worthy right here, right now, and so that is your inherent worthiness. That knowing that, oh, I am.
I love that. And so, how do you boldly step into that? And let's choose to go from the angle from thinking through like as close to the typical avatar as we could of visionaries, leaders, entrepreneurs. I know that's still all over the place, but what does that look like?
So yeah, as an entrepreneur, especially, right? An entrepreneur is a special breed of person. It is somebody who is going out there ready to make it happen, right? You know that there's more. And that's why I love working with entrepreneurs as I am one myself. I know that feeling of, there's more. So right there, you already have that insight. You're already tapped into it. But then we shrink ourselves because the world, right? The world says you need to be this way. You need to do it this way. You should or shouldn't work this much. You should be a stay-at-home parent, or you shouldn't be a stay-at-home parent. You should think this way, do this, right? And when we start falling into that, which many people do, that's what blocks us from stepping into our authentic self, which is really what grows that business, like I talked about, in the aligned and divine way, versus we can create a business that's based on stress and pillars of XYZ. But most of the time when people do that, and I'll work with them and meet them in the middle a lot of times because they're there, they created this business, but it wasn't from like worthiness. It was, I want this, but then I start sacrificing all of the things that are the reasons I wanted to create this in the first place, right? The relationships, the health, the joy. Yeah. And so the deeper that you get into your worthiness, what it really looks like is you're bold and you're brave, and you almost embrace people are going to love me or they're going to hate me. And that has nothing to do with me. So you start actually using your voice. And there are gifts I have. Like I personally, I'm an intuitive channel. It is a gift. It's a spiritual gift that I have. I used to be terrified about speaking about it because I'm like, I know some people don't agree with this, but it's part of my gift. And that's what aligns me with the people that I'm meant to serve. And so that's really what I help people do is they step more into their worth and their gifts and their alignment. They don't sacrifice their health anymore because they know their health pours into everything else. They stop allowing themselves to bottle up emotions and realize that they're allowed to feel them. They're meant to feel them. Their feelings are valid. And also start doing the brave things that have been sitting on the back of their mind that they have not done because they feel like they have to fit into this box. So the more you step into your worthiness, the more you just shine. And whoever you are, maybe you are the suit and tie kind of person, or maybe you're more like me. I like to get really dressed up, but I also am a super free-spirited hippie gal who likes to wear whatever. And I share that on my social media too. And it doesn't discredit me and the magic that I can work with people. But that was a belief that I used to hold, that I had to look a certain way to work with certain people. And I don't believe any of that to be true now.
It's a really, really important mindset shift. It's when you can embrace the fact that, yes, certain people will call you out, even industry leaders, can be uncomfortable with very superficial external changes that exist. And it's often surprising to me, but I like to stand out because of that, because it makes it easy to recognize who's got limiting beliefs and who doesn't. One such example is the long hair. And people who say like, oh, your pictures need updated. And there's a reflection, right, for them on a mirror. They're worried about their own way of showing up. And I just I find it funny, because I know who I am. I know where I am. I know what I do. I know why. Right. And so it's a really fun way to recognize, who's comfortable in their own skin and who's not, while it's still a little bit of a mindset challenge for me because I've never grown it out. So this is the first time I've gone through that. And it's at a time in my life where I do have such a deep appreciation for who I am, but that's not how I grew up. That's not what I understood and knew for the time I was 5 until the time I was about 30. There's a big struggle.
Same.
Same period.
Yes.
Ooh, our life stories. We can go deep on those. So I do got to ask though. So I want to stay focused on this higher level for now, because I know that everybody who's trying to get to the higher level can also benefit tremendously from you. But I'm actually going to leverage this time almost selfishly a little bit. The entrepreneurs that are out there, I see a challenge with being authentic and accepting the gift of who you are. And I see some people leveraging that to justify not willing to be accountable. And that's hard, because if you're wanting to be truly next level, LeBron James, I think he loves who he is. And I don't see him doing things that showcase that he doubts that too often. And if somebody were to come to him and say like, hey, here's the things that you've got to do to change, and he were to be like, well, I'm happy with who I am and I'm doing my best, so thanks very much. How do you not fall into that trap where somebody's trying to help you move forward, but you're justifying the fact that you have a gift, so you shouldn't have to like change other things? What causes that? And how do you be accountable when you think that everything is perfect as it is? I have my answer, but I'm very curious about yours.
Yeah, that's such a multifaceted.
Yes, it is. We're
So
going deep.
yeah. So first of all, if somebody tells me this is who I am and I'm not changing, like I instantly know the conversation's not going to go much further, because that's where they're stuck. And the first thing I'd like to say is you cannot help anybody if they are not open to receiving.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't matter if it's.
So how do you do it for yourself though? How do you recognize if you're that person, right? Who's, and I put perfect up here. I know people have very mixed feelings about that word. So perfect versus the accountability of, what if somebody's coming to you and they're offering you an opportunity to improve your life, and it really would be a wholesome improvement, but your nature, like my nature is like, well, I could do that, but I don't really want to. How do you progress if you're already perfect how you are?
I think we are perfect in the sense that we are all unique, but we're also human, right? We're human, so imperfectly perfect. But if we are somebody who wants to reach that next level, I do believe it's holding that energy of always being coachable with the boundary of looking at who you are taking the advice from. So I think that's where the discernment comes in. If it's somebody who isn't where you want to be, is making like none of what they're doing is reflecting back to the life you're trying to build, then that's discernment of maybe that's not somebody you want to take that, advice from, but also being open to be coachable and allowing yourself to live in that energy of I want the best and I know that I'm always learning. And for me personally, if I'm not learning, you go backwards, right? Always being open to learn, and also being able to sit with something, like respond instead of react. So I will tell people from my personal perspective that I love your feedback. And sometimes I still feel like when I say it, my body's like, what's going to happen? Yeah. But breathing through it and saying whatever that feedback is with that energy, and you can usually feel if someone's genuine or not, right? Okay, this feedback is to help me be better. And I truly do want to be better. So how can I take that without, like you said, with still knowing that I'm worthy, and it has nothing to do with my worth or what I'm doing. It's just something that, maybe I can grow from So I really do believe it's that mindset, but it's somebody has to get to the point where they realize like there's more, like I can
Yeah.
grow. And again, you can't make
Oh, I had a therapist blow my mind and put me in my place when
uh,
I was talking about the respond versus react
uh,
reality, because I was responding in a situation, right, where I was in therapy with another partner, and I was like, I know how to respond. And he's like, you can react, you can respond. And I'm like, and he says, or you can listen to understand. And I was like, there's a third level. I was like, what? And so I was thinking, it didn't take me very long to think through that and realize, oh my gosh, like that level of, asking somebody what they mean, right? It's taking a step back from it even further and giving them the full space and opportunity to be themselves. Like I was like, oh, this guy's good. Like this is really cool. So you kind of helped me remember that. And it's something that we still react and respond. We're human. We have survival instincts too. And I have lots of things that can create that within ourselves. And I'm so grateful for Jonathan Decker, who's no longer a therapist. I don't think he does like some like movie YouTube thing now. But he, with yourfamilyexpert.com, if it is still there, he made so many amazing life changes for me. And having followed the John Gottman Institute. So if anybody wants the original OG source, that's where his stuff come from. Continuing on this path though. All right. So what are some other things that, elite thinkers can dive into for, and I'm not saying there are people who aren't elite thinkers so much as those who really strive for maximizing their inherent worthiness so that they can really maximize what they do in this life. What are some top secret discoveries you've made, Natalia, along your path to center yourself, move into your body, as you talked about?
Yeah. Many people, men or women in their high level, they're very much in their masculine energy, which isn't a bad thing to be in masculine or feminine, right? We have
Yeah.
both. But it can be in the terminology would be more like the wounded masculine of like the control and the holding on to things and the micromanaging and all of that. And so, first of all, like whether it's a guide or a coach or you're training, but look for something that's different. And I've had many people come to me because I am different, because I can help you tap into that softness, the receiving. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, but many things that you want, like on that deeper level, they come from the receiving. And I don't know if you've even tried to like give a compliment or receive one. A lot of times it takes people practice to receive, just receive and say thank you and not have to give a compliment back, which is just, an example of that. But the elite thinkers of your inherent worthiness, it's not analytical.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the brain. And as a high level person, a lot of times you're trying to find the analytics, and it's
Yeah.
about learning how to drop into your heart
Mm-hmm.
and connect with your body. And so that's what I would suggest with. A lot of times I'll teach people just breath work that helps them, connect with their body. And that's something you could do in 3 minutes to just start bringing yourself in here. And we have this intuitive gift to actually know, but we have shut it down for so long and we're living in the brain that it's silenced or it's very quiet. And so the more that you take the time to just allow yourself that space to connect and to do that, it's going to help you drop into more of what do I really want? And I will tell you, I've worked with many people who even their vision of like their desires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Work together about a month or two, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we'll get to their joy, their wants, their needs. The vision that they were aspiring for was not aligned with them at all. It was aligned with like what they would see in the world, that this is the vision, and their vision would look completely the opposite. And so we start aligning their life in that way. And all of a sudden, all these doors, all these things just start happening for them, and their business grows. And this thing that they actually really did want is right there. It's been there all along. So it's just getting out of your head and what you're seeing and getting into your heart and like in you, like going from without to within.
I love that. And so the and side of that, I would say the and is the opposite, is also often true with elite performers. A lot of musicians, for instance, the
Yeah.
musicians, um, the athletes, even the nurturers of the world. Sometimes people use masculine and feminine as well for that. I tend to use the same terminology. I always joke that masculine individuals, they love to think with their mind, right? It's a no-brainer, right? That deal for business, it's a no-brainer. It's all going to work out, and their gut is telling them something else, but they won't call it their heart, right? Because it's masculine. It's not the feelings; it's a gut thing. So they kind of try to avoid that part. But then next thing you know, the business deal went south, and somebody who did have that heart instinct, like, I'm not feeling right about this. Like they knew it wasn't going to work out. On the flip side, a lot of women that I've met have gotten into abusive relationships, and they had these rose colored, they say the rose colored sunglasses, rose shaded. How do they say that? What's that term?
Rose colored glasses.
Thank you. That's it. Rose colored glasses. I had it. A little self doubt jumping out there. So, and their friends and family are saying like, I don't know, like it's not adding up. Why is he X, Y, or Z? And a lot of times they'll even go full spiritual nuclear on you, and they'll say, "Well, I prayed about it." It's like, okay, I prayed, and so sometimes that heart-driven aspect leads us to the wrong path as well. And I shouldn't say the wrong path, because all these, like you said, mirror, right? All of these experiences serve for our good. What I've found though is that when my heart and my mind aligns, I got the superpower answer. So so that alignment, that being able to engage with both and being able to take that space and step back patiently, a word nobody likes, being patient. It's something that can be freeing, but there are also times in life where you don't get an answer and you just need to learn.
Yeah. And like how you brought up the relationships, that's something that could be like a common pattern. I know mine were, until I, reflected, okay, I've been attracting this. Like this,
Yes.
I have been in the frequency of attracting this and also justifying it, right? It's different. It's whatever. But
Yes.
once again, you actually look at that as a mirror, you can transmute that into something different, and you heal that part of you that was looking for whatever it is. Sometimes it's recreating your relationship with your father, as a
Yeah.
woman.
And to be clear, everybody, I'm twice divorced. Like I am not the God of wisdom on any of these matters. I've got my own challenges. I got 4 kiddos. I do my best as a dad. These topics are not anybody's to own. As much as they are for human beings to explore with each other. That's how we exercise depth, is finding like, all right, well, wait, how do you see things? It gives us new perspectives. So I'm going to circle back to one other small story. I learned I've always been very grateful for people who are not qualified to be mentors. And we talked about that earlier, about how, like, making sure people are qualified. I'd like to add to that as well, making sure that the advice is sound with our intuition. So I was in a grocery store line, and this lady was being offered to her child, just horrible to this little girl. And I was like, I finally stepped in. I was like, hey, she just wants to see the candy thing. I was like, I'm trying to help. And she didn't say anything. But like, it was such a bad experience that I told my sisters about it. And whichever sisters it was, they were who's like, how do you have the right to judge her for being, a mom? And they railed me about this. Like, what are you doing stepping in there? And so I went to my wife at the time, and I told her about it, and I'm like surprised how they like ate me alive. And she's like, Jackson, think about it. Like, what if somebody come up to you and told you that you're not being a good parent or whatever? And that's not what I said, but it was besides the point. I said, what would I have said? And she goes, you would have listened. And I said, you're right. I would have. And when, if I'm walking down the road and a bum, as they call it in the world, somebody under a bridge were to yell at me and my kids and say, you're being an awful dad, who are you to treat them that way or whatever, I would want to listen and understand. And I would want to find out what his perspective is. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, he screwed up as a father so bad. that he's trying to help me see something I overlook in that circumstance and situation. Maybe he had parents who screwed up and he hasn't been able to internalize or process how to get out of that. And maybe it's unsafe and I need to leave fast with my kiddos. There's a lot of different things to look at there. But my point being, mentors come in so many forms, coaches come in so many opportunities, that to me, having somebody like Natalia Richardson on the show to talk to us about her perspectives as she's grown as an individual, been through her experiences, competed in your competitions for strength and building, and dedicated your heart and soul to help others. Like, you're that type of person. I'm like, man, I want to explore this to the nth degree while I have the chance and see what all can we gain from this experience. So if there's anything else that you'd like to share related to boldly stepping into inherent worthiness, the floor is yours. Is there anything else you'd like to drive us towards?
Well, first of all, thank you for the big compliment. I truly, truly appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And I do agree with you. I just talked to somebody else about this recently. It's somebody who's working through the fear of conflict. And it's like,
my best friend. I fear people who fear conflict. No joke. Like, that scares the heck out of me. Go ahead.
And a lot of it comes from the fact that not everybody is in that space you are who is okay with somebody having a different opinion and being able to listen to it, right? And the people that are close to me in my life now, I respect, and a lot of times our views aren't the same, but being able to have like that really deep, good conversation and nobody's attacking, it's just to listen. And maybe it does shift your perspective, or maybe it doesn't, but I think that that's how we grow. So again, I totally understand the being afraid of conflict. That's something that I have worked through and continue to work through on a different level now. But it does come down to, I think, if somebody is willing to receive or not willing to receive, like you said, to listen, to hear, without that push. Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful that you brought that up. This is one of the topics that I think is one of the greatest challenges for society right now. We have, and I'm the outlier. I am I'm the guy who will say what I feel and what I think. And nowadays you can't do that. You can't do that openly. You have to be more calculated. I got kicked in the face too many times. Attacked with theoretically. Or what do we say? What is that called? Metaphorically. So it's challenging because, at the same time, we got to learn to be respectful as human beings. Mm-hmm. We got to learn to give people space as well. But is conflict, is it healthy? Is it hurtful? Can it be both? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it can be both, depending on how it's handled. Right. I now, my partner, we've had things we've disagreed on. There's been like deep conversations. We've never actually fought. Like, it's never been this yelling, aggressive, whatever. Past relationships, there was like heightened emotions, like the fear, right? So
I'm an emotional guy. Like, that's raising my voice, like, but for fun too. Like, it's dynamic. I mean, I sing, for crying out loud, like that's part of life. But yes, it can be received very poorly.
Yeah. And I think that's really what it depends on. Like you said, healthy or hurtful. And again, conflict, if it's healthy and two people are aware, you can have this deep conversation and disagree, and it can be really healthy. And also to be able to hear somebody, like, it doesn't feel good if somebody tells you, oh, this is how you made me feel. It doesn't feel great, but to be able to receive that and breathe through it and realize that's how they feel and apologize for it, that you made, that's how they feel. And that wasn't your intention if it wasn't. But some people, when they get in conflict, they intentionally want to push or hurt the other person because they're pushing back. So I think that's a loaded question. It depends on the people that are in this conflict.
Absolutely. There's a great TED Talk on the subject called, if you just look up How to Not Get Offended, TED Talk.
Okay.
This dude with red hair will pop up. I can't remember his name. But he talks about purposefully becoming a soccer ref so that he could overcome his fear of getting offended. He threw himself into the fire, so to speak. And and I don't want to ruin the rest of the talk, so I won't, because it is just mind-blowingly amazing and gives a couple tools to get past some of the inner turmoil that comes with our natural tendency to take offense. And the on the opposite side of the healthy conflict, it's like people believe you can avoid conflict, and that is true if you want to avoid a relationship. But when you have a relationship, especially with kids, and you both have different parenting styles or different things desired there, if one person is successfully avoiding all of what you want to have happen in that, then but they're kind about it. This is where I hate hearing kindness justified. And I'm like, no, there's nothing kind about stonewalling individuals, or completely choosing to ignore the needs of others while smiling about it and waking up with your own self-satisfaction jar full. And it's a challenge that, as entrepreneurs, as visionaries, as leaders, we have the opportunity to prepare ourselves for. While you may be able to choose who your team members are in the initial stages, or you may be able to choose who your clients are. You don't choose your clients. You don't choose employees down the road. But if you can learn how to set cultural standards up and really understand who you are, what you want, who you interact with well, that's a good start. But we also have to take the next level if we're going to go to the next level of influence, of saying, okay, I don't understand those people at all, or that type of individual, but I'm going to work hard to try to understand it, because coexistence in a connected world is extremely important. So I would say I've embraced conflict, and I'm trying to learn how to embrace the individuals who don't want it at all, and that's hard for me to do. Any advice?
With
Keep
the
working on it.
so much with, like you said, I think that's really hard, because when somebody is ignoring it and they won't talk about it and do it, first of all, there's resentment being built up, right? That's not healthy. So when people say no, we never disagree, we never whatever, there's something somewhere that people are just burying, right? And that's when, what happened? It's like, you split up, or what happened? This blew up. And it's like, it didn't just happen. It was things.
That's a great point. So catching that's an early sign and detector. As if somebody's constantly in agreement, then it's probably not a perfect alignment as much as it is somebody being able to avoid that reality. Maybe it's you. I know who's doing it. Maybe it's me who's doing it in that case. I mean you. But you've made great space for me on this, Natalia. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the depth of wisdom that comes from both your spoken word and your listening skills. Both are very easy to see. So those of you listening in, you can connect with Natalia on Meteor Transformation Coaching. Also, right below the show on the landing page, you'll see the action steps that are recommended. So you can take action with her. You can connect with her on social media platforms as well. We have one final invitation. That's in the top right corner of the page. You'll see a button that says "Be Our Guest." If you've got a vision to share, if you're a visionary leader who's looking to help others out there, it doesn't matter if you are in the Forbes 30 under 30, or you are brand new. If your goal is to help people and you appreciate this platform, we want you on the stage. And if you are in the Forbes 30 under 30 and you care about people, then absolutely come and join us as well. We want people from all walks of life. And everybody have a fantastic rest of your day. Natalia, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time.